Hello, Mr. DSouza. I'm a op-ed writer for the school paper, and full disclosure, I wrote an article saying that I think you're a hack. Now, I came with an open mind, and I was disappointed to find that much like much of the current president's comments, yours are based on sort of shallow logic, lack of expertise, no real facts, and economic ignorance. But, and some conservatives have said that too, but I have a question about the broader conservative philosophy, and this gets back to what you said about trade. Now, you said that, we gotta, get trade back in order. But with the trend in technology nowadays, the real threat is not trade and loss of jobs overseas, but automation, artificial intelligence, the replacement of many of the jobs that serve as a starting level for economic advancement. What role does conservatism have in a world in which machines and automation can take the place of much of human labor and activity that generates income and value for everyday people?
All right, well, man, let me say this. If it is the case that in what I said tonight, and I put some fairly incendiary material on the table, if I had said something that was even arguably wrong, factually wrong, about the Democratic Party or about fascism or about Trump, it would be very easy for someone to point it out. So normally, if you're going to call someone a hack, you should kind of try to establish your own bona fides. It's okay. It's okay. Look, a certain amount of moral indignation is the staple of being a late teen. And so I think we should be indulgent. Now, technology. Look, here's the point. We have seen in the United States the ordinary working guy, I don't just mean the white guy, the black guy, the Hispanic guy, the working class in this country has been hit by three powerful winds blowing in the same direction. And those winds are named globalization, immigration, and technology. Now, what does the Democratic Party plan to do about any of these? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. Obama did nothing. Hillary proposed to do nothing. In fact, what the Democratic Party wants to do is to increase the problem of illegal immigration, motivated solely by getting Democratic voters, with complete indifference to the impact on the worker. Now, Trump has never spoken one word against technology. The technology boom in the United States is the product of Reagan-era policies of privatization, deregulation, the unleashing of the entrepreneur. If you don't believe me, when I came to the United States, the entrepreneur was in a funk. The guy who was riding high on the hog was the federal worker. Why? Because a generation ago, a moronic John F. Kennedy said, if you're young, if you're idealistic, do what? Join the Peace Corps. Become a public servant. An oxymoron, if I ever heard one. And so the bureaucrat was made the embodiment of American idealism. Reagan challenged that. Reagan goes, it's not the bureaucrat just sits at his desk. Reagan told the story of a guy at the Bureau of Indian Affairs who was sobbing at his desk. And a man came up to him and said, what's up? He goes, my Indian died. And this was the Reaganite celebration of the entrepreneur. And if you talk to young entrepreneurs, Michael Dell and others, they will tell you that the Reaganite mood of optimism is what launched Microsoft in 1982 and Dell in the 80s and this whole technology boom. So, in short, Trump recognizes the great benefit of technology. But he also realizes that in a society, it's not fair for a whole bunch of people to gallop tremendously ahead while a whole bunch of hardworking people are left behind. What kind of American dream is it that only works for some people? If we're going to have ladders of opportunity, everybody should be able to see a ladder. This is the new republicanism that Trump represents. Ordinary Republicans don't even think about working people. They don't even talk like this. They talk about things like trade instead of talking about things like workers and jobs and incomes and looking after your family. So this kind of down-to-earthedness of Trump, I think, is part of the secret of his political success.
So I support Donald Trump and I support his immigration ban. But my question is, on this very sensitive topic, what is your educated opinion on the immigration ban?
Well, my educated opinion on the ban is that it's going to be fought out in the court, and the court is precariously balanced. All policies, I mean, look, people say Trump is a fascist, he's overthrowing the institutions of government. If he was overthrowing the institutions of government, how is it that every outlet and every platform is blasting Trump to kingdom come? Obviously, we have free speech in this country. Everything he does is to go through the court. So our checks and balances are intact. I mean, we have a press that's almost a unified opposition. Look, longer term, there's a difficult issue of what we do with illegals who are here and have been here a long time. You can't blame them exclusively, because a lot of people here in this country did sly and underhanded things to enable that to happen. So there's a lot of blame to go around in how we got here. And I don't entirely know how you fix it. But in order to fix the immigration problem, first of all, you need to credibly convince the American people that you recognize the problem of unlimited illegal immigration. And so it is my view that paradoxically, if Trump deports a few million people, he will be in a much better position to figure out what to do about the rest.
Good evening. I was just wondering if, okay, because this has been a tame crowd, but say if it was like a Berkeley, right? You have the megaphone where you can actually, argue your point. How should we, the people, react to the less vicious, shutting us down, being intolerant of talk?
Okay, question is, what can I do? Now look, when I go every day on Twitter, if I put out a tweet, literally within 30 seconds, 10 paid leftists will go on my Twitter and blast the heck out of me. They'll attack my family, they'll attack the way I look, they'll call me a felon. These are paid dudes who are paid to essentially terrorize conservatives in public life to make people like me go, you know what, who needs it? It's so crazy, life is too short. Let me just get out of the public square. Now, we don't think like this. When Nancy Pelosi tweets, nobody goes on her Twitter and starts insulting her family, making fun of the fact that she's a grandmother, ridiculing her looks. I mean, conservatives don't even think like this. I mean, I do. But they don't. Most don't. So there are two ways. If you want to know how you can be effective, we live in an age of social media. You say, hey, I've got only 100 friends on Facebook. Yeah, but each of them has 100 friends. You're a little publisher. So today you have real power, which if you're able to organize and concentrate, can bring about real change. So think about ways, either on the positive or on the negative side, that you can use your influence to actually put information out in this age of information. Okay?
All right, this is the last question. Last question?
Sure. I think let's just take two more and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
As a fellow immigrant, I totally can relate to your immigration. However, my trip was a little bit shorter from Wisconsin to the Republic of Texas. But while I was still in while I was still in Wisconsin, we had to go ahead and suffer recall season after recall season. So I can understand where in the talk here, you shared that the theology of liberalism is all about hate, fear, and ignorance, whereas conservatism is more focused on love, respect, and education. So I think you touched on it, how we can go ahead and help to go ahead and educate those, help them overcome their fear so that they can start to feel the love and respect for each other so that they can accept the message. Well, what's the best way for us to do that? I think you touched on it with, you're going to be creating some movies, and with the last gentleman, you said that we can use social media. But as far as overcoming that fear portion, I think that's the big wall. How can we go ahead and help break through or help melt that down for them?
The question is about fear. It's important to recognize that fear drives a lot of American politics. A lot of conservatives think, gee, why aren't our leaders doing what they were elected to do? What a wimp, John Boehner is. What a wimp McConnell is. Now, the question I ask is, why are they wimps? What introduces the kind of wimp vaccine into these guys? It's not that they want Hillary or Obama to succeed. My answer is that they're terrified by the media. They know that the media has the power to humiliate. And we are living at a time where our media, our press, is not a real press. Now, let me give you a tiny personal example of what I mean. I made a movie last year, Hillary's America. Okay. The number one, not political, the number one documentary of the year. The number 8 most successful political documentary of all time. And it's a movie making contentious claims about the current election at a time of election fever. Now, it is a fact that during the entire election season, if you watched ABC, CBS, NBC, or listened to NPR, this movie was never mentioned. It was a non-existent movie. Now, how can you explain this? The press is covering the news. We are in the fray. We are making arguments about Hillary. They're relevant to the election. Nothing could be more timely. If I had been Michael Moore, I would have been on The View. I'd be on the Today Show. I'd be everywhere. And yet, they don't argue against the movie. They don't refute it. They simply don't acknowledge its existence. So this is the era where this is what we mean by fake news. It's not that we don't need a free press, an independent press. We have a press that for the past 8 years, if they had discovered that Obama had committed 5 serious felonies, would do everything they could to suppress that information from reaching the public. That's true. When I was thrown in the slammer for my campaign finance violation, innumerable reporters said to me, Dinesh, what's happening to you is absolutely horrible. We can't find a single case in American history where anybody has even been prosecuted, let alone locked up for doing what you did. Not one of them ever said that in public. They knew it was true. They knew it was a political vendetta. But they were so bought into this kind of mad ideology that they could not for fear, because if you are a liberal and you stray off the reservation, they will destroy your career. It's not just a conservative. So this is the actual atmosphere of fear. Aristotle says that courage is the greatest of all the virtues because it's the virtue that makes the other ones possible. If you're a student on campus, a left-wing campus, and you speak up, you want to say what's true, you need courage. You don't just need truth, that's a virtue, But courage is the greater virtue because it has to pave the way for you having the guts to tell the truth. Okay, last question.
Hi, name's Chris. First off, on behalf of millennials, I apologize for the other millennials who were here earlier. And as to my question, I find that I'm fortunate as a minority because unlike white conservatives, I actually get freedom of speech. But my point is, how can I exercise these rights more effectively against the problem minorities in political debates?
Look, let me say that despite the little poster incident of some time ago, we have actually had a very respectful, cordial, and I think stimulating discussion tonight. I like speaking on campus. My wife gets a little bit nervous sometimes, but I like the liberal campus because I find that what's wrong with our young people today is not that they're bad kids, it's not that they lack idealism, it's not that they don't believe in truth, none of that. It's not that they're lazy, it's really that the fact that their elders have abused them, have done them wrong. And what I mean by this is that when I was a student in the 80s, there were liberals, there were conservatives. I went to a very liberal campus. But there was a conservative point of view that was taught in the classroom, that was argued about on the campus. And today when I go to campuses, that conservatism just does not exist. Young people don't reject conservatism, they don't know what it is. If you were to say to most young people, what is it that the conservative is trying to conserve? They would give you a vacant look. Or they would say something like, well, maybe racism?